There are people in the house and I'm trying to shoot a video. So, Bible quizzing. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I say those words, obviously you are new to my channel because most of my vlogs are actually about quiz meets and Bible quizzing in general. So if you don't know what Bible quizzing is, well, I don't really know what to tell you other than it is a competition where teenagers come together and they memorize the Bible and then they quiz on it. That is the easiest way to explain it. So when I posted my video last week asking you guys for some ideas, a friend of mine came to me and said, "Hey Sarah, why don't you make quizzing videos?" You know, I had never actually thought about making videos about quizzing. And even though over half of my videos are about quizzing. So I thought that would be a great idea. So that's what this video is about. Internationals. Now, if you are a Bible quizzer, you more than likely know what internationals is. There are several different districts between Canada and the United States, and at the end of the year, all of their top quizzers come together at something called internationals and they duel it out. It's a lot of fun, it's really great, but every fun and great thing can have its downsides. The very first time that I made it to internationals, I was 14, and it was a very scary experience for me. I quizzed with the CMD district, which is Canadian Midwest, and they sent their top 10 quizzers. In the year of 2014, I got 10th place. I didn't realize at the time that I had been doing so good. It was my first year doing total material, so I memorized all of the material that was Romans and James, and it was also my It was also my first year in the A division, and the A division was like, you know, the top of the top, the cool kids. That's where all the intense quizzers were. And when I first started out, I didn't feel like one of those quizzers. I just really enjoyed quizzing in general. And it was only when they suggested that I go to Great West that we realized, oh, Sarah's actually doing pretty good. If you don't know what Great West is, I will explain it in another video, but it's like an out-of-district meet. So when I made the top 10, it was kind of a surprise for me and just kind of really intimidating because, first of all, I was the youngest on the team by 2 weeks. Thanks, Adam. Here comes Anna. I'm trying to film a video.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought you were crazy for a whole split second there. Talking to yourself.
Thanks, Anna.
You're welcome.
I told you I was gonna make a video.
Yeah, but I wasn't really listening.
You took my bird! It's gonna be shrieking outside my door now. What was I saying? So anyway, not only was I the youngest on this team, but the rest of the 9 kids already like knew each other pretty well, and they were all pretty good friends, or I mean, at least it seemed to me anyway. And I just felt like the odd one out. I wasn't really outgoing in my early teenage years, and probably most of that had to do with the fact that I had just been diagnosed with Graves' disease, and it had really been taking its toll on me. And while I used to be a very energetic young kid, it just sort of like hit me like a brick wall, and that was the end of me being that bouncy, outgoing kid. It felt like, anyway. Being with this group of other kids who, 1, they were all older than me, 2, it felt like they were all way better at quizzing than me, and 3, it was like they were like the quizzers. I mean, you probably know what I'm talking about if you've been to quiz meets. There are just like those quizzers that are like the elite that you sort of don't feel like you belong in. And so that's how I felt my very first year at internationals. It was very intimidating. And I remember practice weekends in the city, and basically that was my very first glimpse of what it was going to be like. And I came home in tears telling my mom I didn't want to go because I was just so overwhelmed. I was so insecure, and I just felt like I didn't belong with the others. And I know that they would probably be very surprised to hear me say that because, like, they were great. They included me. They wanted to be my friend, or I think they did. It's just like in my brain, I just felt so scared and insecure, and I was so quiet. They came up with the idea that I was a serial killer. Thanks, Adam. I think I'm pretty sane. 6 years later, it's actually still a thing. Not with that particular group, but just in general. And I think that has something to do with me being a writer. Anyway, so that's just sort of the bottom line. I was scared. I felt unprepared. I felt like the ugly duckling of the group, basically. And I was the youngest, and I was shy and quiet, and they thought I was a serial killer. So all of those things put together just sort of, it wasn't feeling like it was going to be a good time. I don't really remember exactly everything that happened, but I do remember that it was sort of a turning point in my life. One of my friends, Jake, he told me later on that it was like I was a turtle in a shell, and they were just trying to coax me out of that shell. Yeah, I was definitely just so scared, and it wasn't really even the quizzing side of things. Like, I wanted to do good in quizzing, but I was scared of the people, really. I was scared of the fact that I was gonna go on a plane for the very first time in my life, and it wasn't going to be with my parents. And so it was just terrifying. Like, the whole idea of it, the whole thing was just very intimidating. But like I said, I do think it was like a turning point in my life where I finally realized that I needed to be who I was, and people were going to love and accept who I was because that's who I was. Trying to fit in by being someone I wasn't just wasn't going to work. Now, the quizzing side of things, it was surprising actually, because my team, we were a really great team, I remember. And what I mean by a really great team is that we sucked. No, we didn't suck. It was just at internationals, you have 3 prelim quizzes, and then you go on to have your eliminations. At internationals, you have 12 prelim quizzes, and then you go on to eliminations. So that's why it's not a weekend thing. It's actually over an entire week that this competition is going. There was a string of about 5 prelim quizzes, where my team just sucked. It was horrible. We got the lowest score of the entire meet, which was -30, and it was just horrible quiz after horrible quiz after horrible quiz. But we kept going. We stuck together. I know that was a really big thing for me because back in my district, I was like, my home church, I was, the competitive quizzer in our group. Most of the time I did carry the team. So the fact that at internationals I got a taste of what actual teamwork was, it was like almost like a breath of fresh air, because it wasn't expected of me to quiz out in every single quiz. All that was expected of me in each quiz was to just try and get a question. Just one question. And it felt good to be able to rely on my team, and I just focused on my category, it was great, actually, even though my team was kind of failing. And meanwhile, the other team, the other CMD team, they didn't have a single horrible quiz. They just they were winning quiz after quiz after quiz, and they were just blowing through everything, just wiping everyone out. And meanwhile, us over here, this other CMD team, we're just sort of limping along through our quizzes, struggling, trying to do good, right? And I remember an older former quizzer from the CMD district, two of his sisters had made our international team, so he was there and watching us, and he came up to our team and he told us that he was pretty sure that we were the strongest team there, emotionally strong, and anything to do with me didn't usually go together in a sentence. I remember that tiny little pep talk that he gave us, and I remember feeling just like, yeah, we're such an emotionally strong team, because we've been having bad quiz after bad quiz after bad quiz, and usually that really tears people down. But we weren't falling apart like a lot of teams might have. And I don't really know how to explain it really well, but we just stuck by each other and encouraged each other, and it was really cool. There's sort of this thing that I've heard people say a lot at quiz meets, and it's, you always have a bad quiz. And that rang really true for the other CMD team because, well, after prelims, they were in first place. Statistics show that the team that comes out of prelims in first place usually crashes and burns right after that. And that was actually very, very true for the other CMD team. You see, it was kind of crazy because we had 5 really horrible quizzes and we had the lowest score of the meet. But the other 7 quizzes that we had, I guess, redeemed us. We actually also got the highest score of the meet, which was 250. So somehow my team managed to squeeze our way into the championship round in 8th place after prelims. So it was sort of like, we made it in, right? And we faced the other CMD team in, I believe, their second quiz. And the first quiz that they had right after prelims was a really rough quiz. It was their first rough quiz. From what I saw, things just sort of fell apart from there. It was as if they didn't know how to cope with it or something. I don't know. Or it made me understand why we were told that my team was such an emotionally strong team, because they had their bad quiz, then they faced us, and we destroyed them. With the love of Jesus, obviously, but I remember it was in the last couple of questions, and our coaches told us to sort of just hang back because it was already very clear that we were going to win this quiz. And so they just told us to just, hang back, and maybe the other CMD team will be able to get these questions and, boost their score. They blistered them. I remember that quite vividly. I don't remember who it was, but I'm not going to say. Anyway, after that, their team was eliminated, and actually my team went on to get 4th place, and theirs ended up in 8th, which was kind of ironic for me because it was we pretty much switched places, and our team was this close to getting into the finals, but we didn't make it. And honestly, I think I'm glad that we didn't make finals my very first year. finals at internationals is the best out of 4 quizzes. So whichever team is the first to win 2 quizzes. And a lot of the time, this team wins one, and then the next team wins one, and then this team wins one. So now there's 4 quizzes in a row that all these 3 teams are doing, and it's exhausting. Anyway, I need to wrap up this video before my camera dies on me again. So basically, that was like my first year at internationals. It was scary and intimidating, but it was also sort of a turning point in my life for me because it gave me confidence. I also made friends, which was really great for the following years, but it gave me confidence and it sort of drove me to better myself. And after that, quizzing basically became my life. But that's all that I'm going to talk about for today. That was my very first year in internationals. It was great. If any of you quizzers out there are thinking about going to internationals, I highly recommend it. It was a really great experience and it just really helped boost my self-confidence. I was not in a very good place at that time in my life, and while it was very intimidating and scary and sometimes emotionally scarring, it was also just amazing, and I made friends out of that experience that I treasure very deeply. And there are just some very fond memories, like Adam and Presley and others putting numbing gel on our water bottles. They never got mine. But I think that's because Adam was genuinely scared of me. I don't know why. Yeah, if you're thinking about going to internationals this year, next year, or any year that maybe you're watching this in 2025, I don't know. But if you're thinking about going to internationals, I highly recommend it because yeah, it's just such a great experience and you can come out of it feeling so encouraged, not just in your life or your quizzing career, but in your faith. So yeah, do it. But don't put numbing gel on people's water bottles. In actuality, Adam, I was afraid of you. Well, not you, but the numbing gel. So that's why I was so scary.